Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to the All Things Performance Podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Derek Devine, as always. Derek, what's going on?
How we doing?
And we got a special guest today, ladies and gentlemen, Jason
stage.
Feaser, all the way from Philadelphia, PA. We'll get into that later.
Yep.
Jason, how we doing, man?
Good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. So Jason is a pastor here at Calvary Community Church in Phoenix, Arizona. And many athletes who are going to be listening to this, many people who are going to be listening to this might say, what the heck does a pastor, faith, right, have to do with performance? And so we're going to get into that. I'm excited for today's conversation. And, you know, before we begin, man, how are you doing, man? How's life in the fast lane, dude?
Life's good, man. Life's really good. It's been busy. You know, we were catching up before, and COVID was crazy because church was full steam ahead. Then COVID hit. No church, no organization was prepared for it, right?
Yeah.
Church, we took a huge hit. We shut down. Life was weird, and my wife lost her job and had an injury, and just it was crazy, bro. And we had the kids, right? You know, the spring break never ended with kids, and so I feel like we're just getting back to creating memories that feel like we now have this term. This feels pre-COVID.
Yeah.
You know, like we just went to the movies with my parents, came into town, so we went and saw Spider-Man, and I literally said, this feels pre-COVID. A family going to a movie theater without wearing masks. So it just feels good, man, to be back in the grind. My wife, and so it's awesome.
I hear people hyping up Spider-Man. Have you seen it
see
yet?
it?
I ain't seen the new one.
I heard people hyping
Watch
it up.
it.
Is it
It's
any
good.
Is
It's
it any
good.
What's it
It's
called?
so
No Way
good.
Home?
No Way Home.
Out?
No Way Out. No Way. No Way
The
something.
thing is, though, is there is a lack of competition nowadays.
Oh, my
though,
goodness,
because there
man.
ain't been as many movies put out.
It's true.
Yeah.
So you know, I mean,
Well, have you heard the
don't
premise
wanna
about
hate,
it? Like,
but-
it's good though, and it's got
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
So it was really cool, and it was
Yeah.
kind of the Spideyverse in the
Okay.
real life. So it was really nostalgic. I mean, I heard like guys, like full-grown men, like I cried.
See,
you
when
know,
I
like
start-
Yeah,
when
that's too much.
it's
Yeah,
like
is it-
wow,
Yeah,
bro.
that's
Like
when I
wow.
start hearing that, I'm just like, come on, man.
You cried
know what
in
I'm saying?
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
No,
Who
but
watches
it's good.
Spi- who
It
watches
was
Spider-Man?
That's just kind of like when you be watching a game and you be see people in the stands like.
Yeah,
they're crying.
It ain't that serious.
You don't have ownership in this one.
Yeah.
It was good.
You didn't work
You're
out.
just a student.
You're not getting
just
paid
a
by the
student.
team.
Yeah.
You're actually paying the team to watch. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, that's good stuff, man.
it's
So
good.
yeah, I heard it was a great movie.
It was
So
good.
when
That
you
was
start
fun.
talking about performance, right? So a lot of people watching this are athletes, people who are in performance settings, and one might say to themselves, what the heck does faith have to do with performance? And one of the things that I wanted to ask you is, you know, as a pastor, and we're going to get into this, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Why is faith such an integral part of the human experience, right? A lot of people have faith in themselves.
Wow. Yeah.
Some people have faith in the universe.
Sure.
Some people have faith in other people.
Right.
Some people put their faith in a thing, in a trinket, in a you know, some type of medallion.
Right.
Whatever people believe in that are watching this, why, in your opinion, is faith such an integral part of the human experience?
Great question. So huge question, and to be honest, we all put faith in something, right? Even the atheist has faith in his atheistic worldview, right? That there is nothing greater than themselves, and the world this is all that there is, the material experience. So everyone has faith in something, right? Like you said, from sport performance, and I think that's a big deal, right? Especially with your audience, and I know what your background is, and is a lot of guys I see burn out because their faith was in their performance as their main idol and their main source of identity.
Yeah.
Right? That's why you see guys going through crisis
Yep.
the moment they leave pro ball,
Yep.
the moment they max out their eligibility in D1, they lose identity. And so when I got saved, so I was a big swimmer was my main sport. So I swam through high school. I wanted to go to the Olympics, and then God called me out of it because I was a train wreck of a person, and I couldn't go back into my sports environment and succeed as a young man in walking in integrity. I'll just say that, right?
Yeah.
So Lord called me out. But I grew up doing sports, and I saw we had some of our teammates go to the Olympics, and it was exciting. But you see these guys now in their 30s and 40s, and they're having these major crises because I really believe the human experience was created for something greater than its own self. And so whether it is higher power, whether it is a social construct, whether it's family or children or legacy, I see in my context as a pastor, it always comes down to what you place your faith in. Determines the value you put on literally everything.
Right.
So the athlete that doesn't have anything greater than their own performance and what they can control will become their own ceiling.
That's good, man.
Because
that's good.
they'll literally max themselves out.
Yeah.
Because what else is there?
Yeah.
So you can, eventually it's going to end.
Yeah.
Right? And so then you see these guys come to me and say, okay, what is it?
There's something more.
What is
There's
it?
something more.
I had a kid sit across from me the other week, atheist, foster care, doesn't have a father, doesn't have a mother. This is his first Christian experience, not a church goer, and he literally said, how do I be happy? I have nothing. I don't have family. I just want to hit people, and I want to fight, and I just want to know how to be happy.
Yeah.
And what that is a crisis of faith. It is him as a young kid, he's 18, asking, please tell me there's more than this. Right? So yeah, I do believe it all comes down to
That's
faith.
interesting. And Derek, I want you to hit on this too, because I have friends that are Muslim. I have friends that are Christian.
Yeah.
I have friends that are, agnostic, don't believe, Sikh, Buddhist, you fill in the blank.
Yeah.
But I think that we would all agree here at this table, in every locker room, in every classroom, in every church, there are varying degrees of belief, right? And people are trying to find something more, especially in a professional setting. It's just like, the more money, the more acclaim, the more fame, the more access. Because for professional athletes, a lot of times, even with college athletes, it's access.
Right.
What are some of your thoughts, man, in terms of this gaping hole that's we're trying to fill as performers?
Well, I agree wholeheartedly with the fact that they're all looking for something. I think the tough thing is I think it's our job as Christians for them to see us and have to stop looking at that point, because they see what they're looking for within us.
Right.
And I think at times you see is there's just, from a Christianity standpoint, a lot of times we're just not doing the best job of living that out in front of them. And I think they're all looking for an example. And, Jesus has called us to be that example. And so, there's something that you said, and I might get the quote wrong, but it's like, we need to live our faith out before, with our actions, with our life, before we live that out with our words.
Right.
And
That's right.
And I know for a fact when I was playing, trying to get and eventually getting to the NFL was like, that was my only goal. So it was like, and I started looking back at everything and realizing, man, I could have been a better Christian to a lot of these people.
Yeah.
But I was so worried about this, I didn't worry about what God cared about, which are the people along the way. I had a real sobering, kind of example hit me. I don't think it was been a year ago, but I was I played on the Redskins with a guy by the name of Colt Brennan, who's a really good quarterback out of Hawaii.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
they were.
Yeah, he was.
They were dialing it up.
And I don't know, and he ended up dying, overdosing, and I believe it was kind of fentanyl based. And I just thought to myself, I had a limited amount of time with him, and I thought to myself, man, was I really doing my job as a follower of Jesus when I was around him? And then you start thinking like, man, you know what? I got some work to do. And so it's like, I agree wholeheartedly, man. We get engulfed in sports and providing for my family and money and job and access and all these things. And I think we sometimes forget the basics. And so I do think everybody's looking for something. And I believe everybody's supposed to stop looking once they see Jesus in someone.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I think it was St. Francis of Assisi. Preach the gospel first with your life, and then use words if necessary.
100%.
There you go.
So I got a question for you, Pastor. So when you start looking at pastors, right? Pastors live their life in the limelight.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you're always on stage, always smiling. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord, saints. How are you doing today, buddy? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, you guys
That's
are
exactly how I sound.
You guys are
Hey, pal.
Hey, pal.
Hey, sport.
Hey, sport.
Hey there, Chief.
Hey, big guy.
Big guy. Hey, buddy.
Hey, boss man.
Hey, man. I'm just
No,
keeping
it's
it real.
true. It's true.
So you guys are always in the spotlight.
Yeah.
Right? And so are athletes. Professional athletes are always in the spotlight.
Right.
And there's a certain type of decorum, especially with a pastor, that you have to come in with, right?
Yeah.
But oh, that's a man of God. Oh, that's a woman of God. She shouldn't be wearing that. Or
Right.
you know what I mean? Why is that dude looking? Why is he looking like that?
Right.
Why is his hair like that? Why does he have tattoos?
Yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
whatever the case is, fill in the blank. Does there come a point? Because I know that with athletes are really good, Derek, right, at masking and putting on a face, especially when you're in the public.
Yeah.
Because what it does is it actually saves them from having to deal with nonsense.
Sure.
Do pastors go through that? Have you become numb to that? And how do you deal with that, man?
Man, good question. So I'm still growing in it because you're right. Like so my wife and I are covered in tattoos, right? And my wife's all sleeved up. When we were young marrieds, I had a lady come up to me and she goes, "Did your wife get tattoos before or after she was a Christian?" And I said, "After." And she goes, "Well, that's an abomination."
Oh,
and
geez.
she literally lashed out and we're like, and right, like in my world, I can't lash back,
Yeah.
right? I can't.
You can't.
I don't win.
You can't.
I don't.
You can't
What did you say?
Yeah.
Like I can't. I
Just
mean,
kidding. We
I
don't
can
condone
rebuke
violence.
her,
We don't
right?
con-
Like
we
I
don't
could
condone
correct her in love,
Yeah.
but it's already game over for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm a young, tattooed, and at the time I was in my early 20s. So yes, and what's really hard too is it affects your kids a lot too.
Oh yeah, man.
And I'm sure in the professional sports world, I'm sure. But I don't know if it's to the same extent because we are living in community with other people, right? So imagine an NFL team creates a building that they all attend 3 times a week and their kids play together. They don't do that, do they?
Jerry's World.
Okay, so maybe.
Frisco? No, I'm just playing.
But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
where else in the world context do you have such exposure? They don't all go to school together.
Right.
Their kids are all separate, and a lot of times super protected. In the Christian world, our kids, they're like, hey, your kid's a Brad, or hey, your kid's doing this, or hey, your kid's a know-it-all, or hey, your kid, like, so our kids are in the limelight. My wife is in the limelight. So to answer your question, man, I was just talking about this a couple weeks ago in a sermon about church, like the importance of church reputation, right? Because the world, like what you were saying, right? Like the world knows exactly what the Christian church stands against, not what we stand for, right? And that's to our own detriment, right? Is because we get very vocal about what we don't agree with, but not about what we do agree with, right? So the world knows what we don't like and what we're gonna, like get all in a thing about, but they don't know that we stand for love in this area, and so. When the church context comes home with us, to be honest, it is really easy to fake it.
Yeah.
And it is really easy to put on a mask, kind of like they're putting on a jersey, and they are what the people want them to be, right? Like, I don't know, I've never played NFL, but I can imagine when you're out in the stadium, you are what people want you to be.
Yeah.
And in the same setting, as a pastor, a lot of times you can easily become what they want. Which is you tickle. The Bible talks about, there'll come a time when they will not endure sound doctrine, but will surround themselves with teachers tickling their ears, meaning you'll only teach what people want to hear, right? So you'll literally start to fashion your life to the applause of people, which is a huge deal. We could talk
Yeah.
about.
No, that's good,
Applause-driven performance is super huge in the Christian and obviously in the professional world.
Go ahead and open that up. Applause-driven performance. Let's come back to that, but
Yeah,
real quick.
put a pin in that.
I want to go back to you. I mean, you've been around that. As far as, hey man, like, perception. I'm going to put up this veneer in perception. Talk about that real quick before we pass it back to Jay in terms of the applause-driven performance.
Yeah, well, like, I mean, in my goes as a pastor, I was a pastor for close to 10 years, and I got the opportunity to work with a lot of guys within like recovery and drug addiction and things like that, and your whole goal was like, okay, man, like, I want to lead these guys to Jesus. I want to help them. You know what I mean? Like, I want to give them a different life, right? And it was like, for me, I couldn't go up to those guys and be like, hey, so there's this Jesus guy, and he'll change your life. Here he is, go.
Right.
It was like, no, it was hours. It was days, it was weeks, it was months, and it was years of time with them.
Yeah.
Of them spending time around me, of them seeing me and my wife interact, them seeing me around my kids, them seeing me in tough times, them seeing me throughout a long period of time to the point where then they make a decision. Hey, you know what? I'm willing to listen to some more stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Let me ask you something that I'm struggling with. Hey, I have my wife and we're not doing too well. Or, hey, you know what? I wasn't in my kid's life and now he's being brought back in. I want to get some visitation rights back. Can you help me with some advice? You know, and then so it's, again, it's like, so for me, it was, I want to build rapport and relationship with these men that I'm leading. So to the point where then they're going to start asking me for something.
Yeah.
You know, because I think at times too, you know, like what you're talking about, we don't build relationship first.
Right.
It's just here, change your life, live better. You're sinning. It's just like, nah.
Doesn't work that
No,
way.
no. You know, for me, it's let me live my life and show you who Jesus is through my life. Yes, I got to get better every day, but let me show you this. And then let's conviction work on you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Let that stir something up in you, because that's how it's going to last, because then it's something they want. It's not me wanting it for them.
I love it.
That's
man.
You know, so that's what I'd go with.
I love it.
And when they see the disconnect, right? Like when they see, like you said, like if they were to go home with us and see a different person, right? And I was teaching about this, and I had a pastor call me on it, which was actually really, I appreciate it. A guy that mentored me named Jimmy Farley in my undergrad. And he said, well, Jason, because I said, hey, fathers, if I followed you home, how would you be? What would you do? And I posted this clip, and then he said, well, how about what happens if they followed you home? Who would they see? What would you do? And I thought, no, it's true. It does. It's us too, right? They, not only do our kids, are they watching, but right, the people that we are discipling, mentoring, working with, coaching, giving advice to, if they see a disconnect from your words to your lifestyle and the way that you actually live your life on the day-to-day,
See, and there's a difference in that, right?
There is.
So it's like
Is
there's a difference, because then there's also the other side of it where they do need to see vulnerability.
no, 100%.
They do need to see.
They need to see you struggle.
They do need to see
and have
weakness
humility.
and-
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Right. So they
it's
need to
like,
see you eat crow. Like I mean, talking to my disciple guys every week, and it's like talking about. I don't down share in the sense of downloading. You know, I'm not gonna pass the burden on that's not theirs to carry in the sense of like, oh my gosh, I'm, you know. But I can share, hey man, dude, I messed up. Hey, dude, I'm struggling, man. My kids, it's hard to get quality time with the wife. Hey, we're in counseling. Like we're very open about that. The church, which I love, our church pays for all the pastors to be in full long-term therapy to make sure that we stay healthy. And so the church pays for all the pastors and families to see therapists.
I was going to ask you about that later.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
that's- So no, this is good. This is really good. I heard just to that your points, both of your points. I heard a pastor once say, he goes, and like it, love it or hate it, but it stuck with me. And he said that there is no difference. You don't have. I'll say it like this. He said there's no such thing as a public life and a private life. He said your life is your life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Your life is your life.
Yep.
You know, and there are certain things that certain people don't need to know, or they don't need to be privy to
Sure.
certain information. But he's just like, man, no, what you do at all times is who you are.
Right.
And when you look at the word integrate, integrated, it means to become one, right? So it's something that is integrated, is something that has become one. So my thoughts, my actions, my words, my beliefs, my life is not saying one thing, thinking something else, and then doing something.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Right.
nah, man, like I know who Derek is. I know who Jason is. Like this person is an fully integrated person, and I don't have to worry that, he's selling me smoke on Sundays in the
Right.
pulpit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So real quick, I want to pivot back to you in terms of applause-driven performance or applause-driven
Yeah.
passaging or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I think that there is a huge connection between that for a pastor and this construct for an
100%.
athlete.
100%. So, and for me, and I don't know if you guys are you on the Enneagram train? Do you know what your Enneagrams are? Are we on that on the podcast?
So real quick.
Is that scratching an
Hey, man,
itch?
all y'all,
What's Enneagram?
Yeah, all
You don't
y'all-
even know what Enneagram is?
Hey,
Are you even a pastor?
There's some people that would throw
well,
stones
is this
at
a
you right
Ouija
now.
board still?
Yeah. I mean, it's like the trendy Myers-Briggs right now, or like
Yeah.
Strength
Got you.
Finder. So,
Yeah.
and it has some weird backings, and I don't fully endorse it at all.
Oh
But it
my
gives you
goodness.
some
Yeah.
We
vocabulary.
need a drop of blood.
Yes.
Yeah. No. Y'all
You
ain't
need
getting
a
my
soul.
blood. Y'all ain't getting my blood.
Yeah, no, it's nothing like that. But on the Enneagram, hate it, like it, like what you said, whatever. my number is a 3, which is called the performer or the achiever.
Yeah.
Meaning I am driven with this internal desire to perform and do well and to be seen in excellence. But then the caveat, the shadow side of performance-based, or applause-based performance, the shadow side is a deep sense of shame that if I don't do well, it's a direct reflection of me as a person, right? So would my wife love me if I wasn't a successful pastor? Would my wife be with me if I wasn't an NFL pro baller? Would so they kind of say it's like the guy driving a Lamborghini going back to his trailer park. Right?
Hey, I'm not trying to laugh, but
No, but think about that vision.
That is an awesome word.
That is the epitome
man.
of
That's deep right there.
like applause-based performance leads to that, which is you literally have to be in the public. You're driven, and it's very big in the pastoral world, where when pastors leave ministry, when they don't have someone clapping and amening for every sentence that they say, they lose their value. They lose their self-worth. So does performing in a stadium with tens of millions of people cheering for you, and everyone. And you literally go home and no one claps for you when you take the trash out.
That's probably why you still see the Rolling Stones on tour.
Right. They're like, we'll get it as long as we can. We'll milk it till it's dead.
It's the reason why it's hard for athletes to retire.
No,
it's
no
hard.
one's clapping for them when they're being a successful husband. No one's clapping for them when they have a
Great
savings
breakfast,
account.
Dad.
Yeah, Dad, you're the best dad ever.
Great drop off at school.
You're the best. Like they have like a crowd following them, like paid, like yeah. They like a hype posse, Like actually, no joke to bring it back to the Bible, right? In the old times, rich families would hire professional mourners to mourn for you at funerals to make you look even more important.
When you were dead?
When you were dead, they would actually pay
Talk about a
people.
waste of money,
Think
bro.
about that. They would
Talk about a waste
pay.
of money,
They would
dog.
pay professional
Entourage.
criers to follow you, wailing and crying. It goes all the way to the grave.
Wow.
Is this need to be validated by what I do?
This is cutting deep
Right?
right here. I think actually, in full disclosure, I think I'm actually a 3 as well. I gotta go back.
I would put money on it.
I think I'm a 3 as well, but I'm not all into the Enneagram, and I know that one of my friends was like, "You got to talk about the Enneagram." So
This is for
here
you.
we go.
This
Here
is
we
for
go.
you. This is for you.
Yeah, and it was Angie May. Angie was like, "Hey, you got to talk about the Enneagram." So we might mess
It's
around.
some good stuff. It's some good stuff.
Bring her
As long
on
as
here.
you can take it, balance it with the scriptures, and it's not gospel. It's got weird background in the beginning. but
Yeah.
Whatever.
So, no, this is good stuff, man. This is really good. So I have another question for you. So in terms of, when you start looking at you, right? I remember when I was a chaplain, I would go in, work with these professional teams, do chapels and stuff like that. And you know how it is. If somebody isn't living right, if somebody's not living right, and the chaplain guy comes in, the Jesus guy,
Right.
Yeah.
like
You're
everybody
like,
all of a
"Oh,
sudden,
this guy."
all of a sudden,
Right.
Yeah.
like they don't know you anymore, right? Because there's shame, there's guilt, and one of the things that I want to know is that when you are in that situation, when you are going up to somebody, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, here comes this dude, or here comes a pastor, here comes a preacher, man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you deal with that, man? You know what I'm saying? Because that would become numbing to some extent, to have this conviction, to be on this platform, and then every time you're around, oh, can't cuss, here's a pastor.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like how do you?
No, I don't get invited to bachelor parties.
Oh,
I mean, it's like being a cop, right? Like they literally, you're not the fun guy.
Yeah.
Even though I'm like, guys, I'm fun. I
Yeah,
swear.
yeah.
Like I'm not gonna go do some crazy. But I'm like, guys, come on, I'm still a guy.
Yeah.
But literally, so okay, one thing, full disclosure, if they don't know me, I don't tell them I'm a pastor. So I don't tell people I'm a pastor.
Yeah.
Unless they know me in this context, like my Starbucks people, my local gas station clerk doesn't know who I am. Now, am I discipling it and reaching out and witnessing to them? Yeah, 1,000%. But the moment they hear you're a pastor, wall goes up. Boom, because a church hurt me, a church abused me, a pastor raped me, something bad happened, my parents were kicked out of a church, I was shunned as a child, or I'm an atheist, so, or I'm a homosexual, and so you hate me right away, and you're going, whoa, 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 whoa. I mean, and so instantly, all these presuppositions go up, and so instantly stops the gospel. And so I'll tell people from the pulpit, you guys have a bigger reach than I do, because the moment they hear I'm a pastor, like you said, they're, did I just cuss? No, my girlfriend, we're not living together. Oh yeah, no, she's moving out today. Yeah, I mean, it just gets weird, man. And then all of a sudden, like, you can't even be real with them because they're just faking it for you. And it's like, and then what's hard is like, you don't want to then be like, no, sin, no, it's cool. Yeah, like I sin too, yeah. So you don't want to.
You can't meet them where they're at.
Yeah, you're like, hey, hey, pass me that joint. Like, I'm cool too. It's not that, but it doesn't. I don't want them to ever think that it's like, I'll come to Top Golf with you. Y'all can drink. I'm not gonna get sloshed though. Like, I'll be the only one hitting something decent, you know. But like, I want to hang out with you guys. I love you.
Right.
So it is really difficult. So yeah, like pre-COVID, and you know this about me. I was building furniture, right? So I'm a carpenter as well, and so I would just tell people I'm a carpenter. So if anyone asks what I did,
my man's really trying to be like Jesus over here.
I'm like, yo, listen, I build furniture, I build lives. What can I say? So I would use that because I'm not lying.
Yeah.
Or I've even heard of pastors, they'll say I'm a community developer. You know, or I'm right. You think about it, I develop communities, right? We work in a community. I develop families. But it literally anything except saying I'm a pastor, because the moment it's over, you're gone, unless they're a Christian.
Yeah.
Then they're like, oh wow, cool. Hey, I've got this question, right? And I got this one, this mole right here. Can you look at that? Because he asked me about that spiritual thing. So then that's a whole nother story.
Yeah. So
right?
this is good. So Derek, you and I have both been around. We've all been around players that have had some type of faith, right? You know how it is. It's like you go to chapel. Everybody goes to chapel. Right, on Sunday, right, on game day, 15 minutes before, we have to be at such and such a meeting. Everybody's in chapel.
Or you're always praying the Lord's Prayer before the game.
Right,
oh, yeah,
right,
yeah,
right.
As a team.
Right.
For sure.
So check this out. So, and I have a theory about this, because it's really easy, man, for people to be judgmental, dude. Right? Like, oh, you in chapel? Man, I was with you last night when we were doing the you know what I'm saying? When we were doing dirt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's really easy for cats to sit there and judge other people. Like, oh man, is that dude really, is he really, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. It's easy to judge. And this is my theory, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. There's a reason why chapel is always full, bro. There's a reason why.
Yeah.
There's a reason why people are, when they love gathering and coming to church on Sunday, even though they were at the club last night doing the most. And I believe that the reason why that is because of what you said earlier.
Right.
There is a hole that is not, it is never satiated. It is never fulfilled because they are searching for something bigger.
Yep.
And for me, like, knowing that, I want my brother in chapel.
Right.
I don't care if he's living it or not. I don't care. I want him in there. Because you never know at what point, right, that somebody, as you said earlier, it's gonna flip that switch. You never know. I've seen it. And cats were just sitting there like, I remember in our senior year in college, one of my good friends, Shannon Butler, before we had the Bible study. So Derek and I, we've known each other for 20 years. And he actually gave his life to the Lord as a result of this Bible study.
That's cool.
There was one instance where one of my good friends, we looked at each other because we went to some party, right, at some point. I don't know if we were doing the Bible study or not. And we kind of like looked at each other and we're like, what are we doing?
Right, like, why are we
you
here?
You know what I'm saying? Like, why? What are we doing? Why are we here? And so I'm setting this up for you to answer this question. Why do you think, as soon as you're done, I'm going to pivot back to here. Why do you think there's this obsession with hypocrisy in the world? People say, oh man, y'all are hypocrites. Christians are hypocrites, right? What do you think is this obsession with hypocrisy, especially when you're talking about Christians?
Well, first off, I feel like we're not always living it out the way that we should. I think at times too, like there were guys. I had a guy actually reach out to me, like, man, it had to be 7 or 8 years after I left college, and he just said, hey man, I really appreciate how you lived your Christianity. I never felt judged by you, man, and I really just felt led to just message you, man, just to say thank you for always being who you said you were.
Wow,
cool. And it was like, and so I just like that. Those guys that come to chapel, they're all looking for something, some something my dad always used to say is there's always somebody watching.
Always, man.
Always somebody watching, and those guys are very, very, very intelligent. They know Christianity more than they would lead on, and they know what you're supposed to be doing and what you're not supposed to be doing. So they know the real Christian, and they know the guy that's not. And they are constantly looking for somebody to be wrong, somebody to be off. They're constantly looking to say, yep, he's not the guy.
Yep.
And so for me, through trial and error at times, it's like, I'm just going to worry about me. And then therefore, I can live something that they're going to want to ask about someday. Might be 10 years down the road. I mean, I never knew I impacted that guy. Yet 8 years later, he reaches out to me and says, hey, man, I just appreciate you actually being who you said you were. And I think a lot of those guys, because I've been in the NFL chapel too, it's packed. And that's great, man, because they should be there. But eventually, those guys are going to come looking for something. And are they going to come looking for you? And for me, it's like, I want to be the guy they look for. Because they know what's real and what isn't. See, that's the thing. Sometimes I think we as Christians are like, no, they need to be told the truth. It's like, no, they need to be loved. You need to meet them where they're at. And then let the Holy Spirit convict them. And then you're there to mentor. You're there to counsel. You know, you're there to keep them accountable. I think that's how you build trust with guys like that. Because again, like those guys are automatically like, I don't need to be judged right now. You know what I mean? It's like, I already know what I did, so I already feel bad enough. You know, and I think at times it's almost like we rub their face in it. You know, and
Jesus didn't do that.
Never.
No.
He never did that. So I want to. That's good, man. And so to your back to you, like, what is this obsession with hypocrisy?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what Derek said, right? I think it's Christians got very, very vocal about what they didn't agree with, and then went home and did it anyway. Right? So they would speak out against homosexuality, and then a pastor in Florida falls with homosexual relationships, and it's plastered all over national TV. Or the pornography, right? So it's like the moment they would, or the pastor that was a drunk, and I won't use any of their names because they're all real people, right? But it's like the world eats that stuff up because they know exactly, like you said, I've said it before too. The world knows exactly what a Christian is supposed to look like. Now, maybe not the intricacies of faith, but they know what practical Christianity looks like. For the most part, you don't cuss, you don't look like this, you don't get drunk at the bar, you don't hit people, and you know, you don't sleep around, and it's like so when you start doing, when I was in college, I was working as a butcher to help pay through college, and so
hey, man, you look like you could be a butcher.
Thank you, Jason the Butcher, bro. It was my dream.
Give one of them leather aprons. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, it was my dream. It was my dream. Covered in blood and a big giant machete all day. I was like, I don't get paid for this. This is good. So I would have done it for free. But I had this guy, big military dude, full suit, like tat from head to toe, raging atheist, like antagonistic atheist, right? And I'm not a pastor. I'm just in Bible college, right? So I'm a young Christian man.
You ain't there yet.
I'm not there. I'm not anointed.
Yeah.
But I'm in my books, right? And he would always come over with some little Snapple bottle fact about, well, did you know, right? And one time I was having a bad day, and I may or may not have cussed. But bigger than that, so this guy's name was James, and he goes, I didn't know Christians were allowed to have bad days.
Oh, dang.
And I was like, oh. Well, first of all, we are. Second of all, thanks for noticing, right? But it's like, but that's the world, right? The world's waiting. The moment they notice a crack in the armor, they say fake, false. Now I know why I don't believe it. Because what they're looking for is an excuse to get rid of this. Right. So if I represent this, and they knock me out, they say, see, this was all trash anyway. Right? So the world is upset, even though we are all hypocrites. The reality is there's always cognitive dissonance. There's always things that Romans chapter 7, I don't do what I want to do, and I do the things I don't. That's hypocrisy. Paul is literally saying, I am thinking in my brain, I shouldn't do this, but I still do it. Because we struggle, we have sin, we have weakness. But the world doesn't understand it because they do it all the time, but they're not thinking about it because they're not morally aware or like, astute enough to think 3 levels deep of, I think therefore I am, and then I do therefore I, like, they're not thinking in a sense that we are, where we really feel I don't want to do that. And so the guy struggling with pornography tells his non-saved buddy, yeah, I'm really wrestling with that. And then they just instantly go, oh, I thought Christians didn't look at porn. I go, well, we're not supposed to, but it's not that easy. There's brains, there's chemicals, there's endorphins, there's addictions, there's all kinds of, compulsive addiction disorders. But they just go, see, it's fake.
Yeah.
You never changed.
Yeah, we're humans. I think at the
Yeah.
at the core of this conversation, like, we're human beings, and if you
There
look-
is biology at play here.
no doubt, and you look at the disciples; those cats all struggled with different
Bro,
things.
they were crazy. They were murderers,
You know what I'm saying?
terrorists, robbers, extortioners, goody two-shoes,
Yeah.
Judas.
Yeah, yeah.
And listen, and it was cool, what you said about discipleship taking years. Jesus let Judas hang all the way, no pun intended, all the way to the end.
yeah,
3 years,
Yeah.
Judas hung around with Jesus, knowing he was going to be betrayed by him. He still let him tag along for 3 years, hoping he would change his heart, until he threw himself out and betrayed Jesus, right? So
powerful.
there were guys that weren't even saved through Jesus' ministry until
Yeah.
after the resurrection.
Yeah.
So that there was a saying that was told to me, and I stole it, which was that you don't have to believe to belong. And it's something I'll say in our young adult
that.
group, which is,
I like
and
that.
I don't, you can run away with it theologically and get weird,
yeah,
but just in the sense of organizationally as a church world, there's this false dichotomy that I have to be better before I get better, right? Of, I have to stop smoking before I come to church, or I can't be on pills when I'm at church. And I say the opposite, like, hey, come however you are. Like, I mentored a dude that would show up to my home group, to my house, high on pills. Total F-boy, womanizer, super drugged out. And he would show up high to my house, dude, and we just loved him. We loved on him. And then he got clean, he got sober. I did his wedding, and he's married, and he's sober, right? So we'll say you don't have to believe to belong, meaning, hey, if you're here in church and you don't believe in God, we're really glad you're here.
I love it.
And this is the best place to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
you're
safe,
welcome.
it should be
Figure
safe,
it
it
out.
should be
We're figuring
non-judgmental.
it out.
Yeah.
And so I say that a lot on Thursdays, which is our young adults, because we get a lot. And because we instill that culture, which is cool, is friends then trust the church with their unsaved friend.
That's right.
Right? Because if I don't trust the pulpit with my unsaved friend, that the pastor's going to go, oh, I see you in the front row.
Yeah,
I see you.
yep,
You're not saved. I don't see. They're never going to bring their unsaved friends.
yeah.
I want them to trust me as their pastor to
Yeah.
bring me their unsaved friends, because I'm going to love them.
this is good.
You
This
know
is
what I mean?
good. I mean, you've been dealing with that for a latter part of 10 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, just really quickly, I mean, for those who are listening, you've been working with a lot of individuals who've had drug addiction.
Yeah, you know.
And so you've seen this, man. How important is that element of what Jason is saying in terms of loving people, being non-judgmental, and just walking with them through their mess? You know what I'm saying? How important is that?
I think it's really the only thing you do.
Yeah, it's the
really
most important.
It's the one thing you do for them. Because that's what's going to build trust and faith and relationship. Because I think it's so hard to start off with this invisible God and developing a relationship. I really feel it has to be, hey, follow me as I follow Jesus.
Right.
And then that's going to turn into
Questions.
you following Jesus.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Right.
we're going to get you a relationship through this. And so I think it has to start everybody's Christian. I mean, like mine started with you running a Bible study. I want what you have. I don't have it.
Right.
So I have to ask you for it. I'm not going to YouTube it or Google it. You have it. Why not ask you? And I did. I walked across campus one day. I said, hey, this stuff you're talking about, I want that in my life. And then I started going after that.
Yeah.
But you showed stuff that I was like, man, that's enticing, man. Okay, let me go next week. I didn't come the first day I met you and say, oh, man, it was
Yeah.
weeks, dude.
Yeah.
I have to watch and watch and watch. Okay. Yeah, you know what? I've gotten some angles on all of this. It's looking pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what?
Wow.
I'm going to invest.
Yeah.
And so that's where all the success I've had mentoring guys like that, it came through. Let's just hang out, man.
Yeah.
It's a long
Let's just
game.
me,
It's a
just
long
me
game.
and you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Praise God. That's
Yeah.
good stuff. That's really good.
100%.
So check this out. So this leads perfectly into the next question. When you start looking at the church, you start looking at this year, we're in 2022. You start looking at the pandemic.
Yeah.
You start looking at the Generation Z, the boomers, the Y, the alphas. You start looking at online, metaverse, NFT,
Yeah.
Bitcoin, crypto. You know what I mean? Like there's this
lot.
there's a lot of things that are happening
Yeah.
right now, right? And you start looking at social justice. You start looking at COVID-19. You start looking at political unrest and unease. And then you start looking at this thing that we're talking about today, our faith, right?
Yeah.
I have a question for you. As somebody who, is a shepherd of people,
Yeah.
right? Where do you think the church is going, right? Where do you think this thing is going? Because there are some people who say, you know what, I'm not trying to go to no church.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be within the four walls. I'm going to just YouTube it. I'm going to just watch online.
Yeah.
I'm going to just take it all in from afar. And there's all these things that are happening in society, in the world. For a young person listening to this,
Yeah.
what is some advice, A, and B, where do you think this thing is going, man? Loaded question. Sorry.
Yeah, no big deal. Just the fate of the church.
Yeah.
So this is just my opinion. I see a massive return to the fundamentals because we have gotten so metaverse. Or like I just saw a big, very famous church now has a meta, a simmed out church online experience for like Oculus people. Like you can actually attend their metaverse church service. And now praise God, maybe for the one person in like Albania or the Philippines that can attend their church, but why not a church there? So don't get me started on that. But here's what I think is happening. You follow the church model. This is interesting. Follows the shopping mall model. Think about in the 80s, shopping malls were a huge deal. That one big building where there was everything. Well, what's happened? How many shopping malls are still left in America? Like a couple dozen, thousands.
So when you say shopping mall,
I'm talking about
define shopping mall.
Shopping mall, a mall, just like Metro Center, Arrowhead, Scottsdale Quarter, these giant complexes that we built that thought everyone wants to be here because we have everything. Then Amazon came online, and now shopping malls close everywhere.
Got it.
Mega churches are falling everywhere because people are realizing that, one, no one knows me. Right? So if you fall, no one noticed, right? My pastor doesn't know who I am.
Yeah, he doesn't know my name.
You have a number on the screen.
He
Doesn't know your children. Doesn't go to their birth. I'm not saying you have to like a personal coach, but you know what I mean? Like they should know you, right? And so I see a shift happening in what the Lord might be calling us back to is a return to the basics. Yeah. Which is just local church, man. Us hanging out, being real, teaching verse by verse in the scriptures, being in service. And if they have to watch, okay, praise the Lord. But I said this a couple weeks ago that online is a substitute, but it's necessary, but it's not a substitute for the local church, right? And it can get very easy and very comfortable. So my advice to a young person, if they're looking to dive in, would be to find a great local church. Find real people to mentor you. And again, I know like you do coaching online that intersects with state lines, and of course, like we're able to mentor and coach people that you would have to live there to do 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But now you can because of technology. So I'm not knocking it, but what I see is a generation that's starved of relational intimacy in real life.
Just in general.
They don't know how to have lunch with someone and have normal conversations.
You bring up kind of like, and this isn't some like political podcast, but it's like you bring up the pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, and I think that's the biggest thing through COVID that suffered.
Yeah.
Is relational.
It shattered.
And then you just get depression rates skyrocket.
Suicide rates went crazy.
And
domestic
drug
violence.
Domestic violence skyrocketed.
Completely skyrocketed because there is no relationship, and that's what everything. That really, really works. It's relational, man, and I agree wholeheartly with that. Is like people just talking about like, well, what's wrong with the world? It's like. I saw a post about Martin Luther King Jr. the other day. It's like, we just should start our day with playing that speech in every school.
Right.
It's crazy, man.
You know, it's just
He-
and how long ago was that?
yeah, it
mean,
wasn't that. It
how-
wasn't
Not
that
that
long
long
ago.
ago.
It wasn't that
You know,
long ago.
I mean, I don't want to get into like war and killing and all that stuff, but it's like, how much better off would we be if we actually had like 15-year-olds trying to lie to go serve their country, to go die for their country?
Right.
You know, just for the other people, to keep them safe. I mean, we don't got to go into all that, but it's like just the selflessness, the willingness to say, hey, you know what? I want to give my life to something bigger than me.
Right.
I think we're losing that. I think
Yeah.
we're getting
I
away
think
from
it's
that, and
really
I think it's
far lost.
Which
Yeah.
really, as we talk about Christianity, that's what this is.
Yeah.
I'm giving my life, and I'm living it for something bigger than myself
Yeah.
or what I can have, my assets, my home, my car, my nice stuff. I'm living this for something bigger than myself, and I just think we're losing that. That's what mentoring is. Hey, I want to help you.
Right.
You know, I
Right.
wanna
No
make-
strings attached.
Nothing.
Just
Yeah.
Just
I want you to be
help
better.
You.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Right.
And
what-
that's the problem.
What you're saying goes back to what you said in terms of the fundamentals, and I wholeheartedly rather believe that. You said something about Martin Luther King. I believe that God, every now and then, He gives certain people the code, or He gives certain people
Yeah.
divine insight,
Yeah.
big time insight. Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was one of those individuals.
100%.
You start listening and reading some of the stuff that he said. That stuff was from God, bro. Like straight up, I believe it was from God, and He gave us the code. But what do we
And
do?
you imagine how much better off you'd be if we just did that.
Yeah, just do that. Just
we
do
didn't
that.
even get anything else.
Yeah.
You just did that.
Just do that.
Right.
He
I mean, that's the tough thing.
The code, and it's just like,
Yeah.
oh man, okay, like this works. This is applicable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we make it really hard, man. And I'm not knocking metaverse and all that. Like, Zuckerberg. Is it Zuckerberg? It's Zuckerberg,
Zuckerberg?
right?
I
Is it
don't know.
Zuckerberg?
Sure.
Facebook. That's his name,
Facebook,
right?
yeah, Mark
yeah. Like I'm
Zuckerberg. I
not
don't
knocking.
know.
I'm not knocking all that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, to the prior points that were made, COVID did show us that, guess what? There's a lot of things that we can do that we don't have to be there physically to do.
Right.
But what it has done is it's gone back to this thing where you cannot replace relationship.
You
Can't do it, dude. Can't be replaced.
You can't, and you can't live in fear, right? And I think one of the biggest symptoms of COVID, and not getting political,
Yeah.
but was people living in fear, and there were people dying, and listen, as a pastor, we have buried dozens of people at our church that
So
died of
sad,
COVID,
man.
right? So it's like I'm not naive to the fact that I buried more, the people, but coming out of it now, there is still this massive blanket of fear for people to come back into relationship, and we're still seeing fresh faces that are like, "This is my first time back in 2 years."
It's crazy,
and we're
man.
going, "Wow, oh, praise the Lord!" And listen, if
Yeah.
you got to wear 20 bandanas around your face to feel safe, fine, do it. But we were created to be in relationship. I think everyone can agree across any religion or any denomination, right? And I believe from the Christian perspective, we were made in God's image, which is a relational image, the Trinity, right? And so we were created to be together. That's why we're always better together. The person, the straggler, the wanderer, is always worse off. Not saying we all go with the, you know what I'm saying?
There's nobody that could come from what we just came from and say, my life's better now.
Right, like I enjoyed having no friends and no life. Maybe one introvert in Alaska, but I mean, it's like the
Yeah,
rest.
but
like,
really,
but even them,
if you dive into that,
Yeah.
no, they're
Yeah,
right. They're
yeah,
just
yeah,
no,
yeah, yeah.
exactly.
No,
So
yeah.
they made friends with the deer, or
Yeah.
like the polar bear. So we are way better together, and so I think I am beginning, at least even just I'll talk just in my context. That's something that we're trying to do at our church, right? So we've cut streaming between campuses so that one campus isn't piping in another pastor's sermon. So we're only having live teachings
At that campus.
At that campus,
Yeah.
because we realized people need a live person talking to them. Because if we're piping it in for an audience, that's what that becomes. What? Just go home.
It's a glorified Zoom
Watch
call.
from home.
It's
Why
a-
am I here?
Yeah, yeah.
And why am I
Yeah.
being pressured to tithe?
Yeah.
I don't have to fake the worship.
Yeah.
Just watch at home in your PJs
Yeah.
with popcorn.
Yeah.
And then you won't.
Yep.
Because no one cares. So that was a big commitment we made pre-COVID actually, was we want to get back to the basics and let's start having a live pastor teach. Even if we are multi-site, we'll drive and teach. And because just not to toot our horn, but to say this is something that we've been wrestling with is it's very easy to check the online church box or to have a great social media platform. But at the end of the day, what is that really doing versus the person that I'm meeting with in my office to not get a divorce?
Yeah.
That's marriage is shipwrecked, or the guy's an alcoholic and he wants to kill himself. That's the real sauce, right? That's where you see transformation happen, is when you can be right here saying, hey, dude, I will go with you to the court proceedings and I'll sit with you and advocate for you because I know you're a good dad. And they're going, what is this?
Yeah.
And that's the way it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's the way it was.
That's good, man. That's good. This has been really good. We're going to have you on for a part 2.
Woo!
But, you know, as we get ready to close here, you have a room full of athletes. You have a room full of high-level performers. This is loaded. What is the encouragement that you would tell them today? What would you do? What would you say to encourage this room? Anything, you can tell them anything you want to tell them. You got 3 minutes. What is your message?
Yeah, here it is. So I think I would go back to the applause-based performance, right? Because I think that's at the heart of what I see and what's something that I've struggled with personally, which is who are we when the audience is gone? And where does your performance level, like, you know, you think about, like, you know, all the, you know, you have like a little barometer on like the water line, right? I definitely, especially early on, that performance changed when no one was watching, right? That's the hypocrisy, right? That's where no one's watching when you leave the sports team and no one's clapping for your every move. You change as a person, right? So my encouragement would be to find consistency in your personality and who you are as a person. And that, again, comes back to what you anchor yourself to. Right? Because if you're only anchored to our performance and what other people think about your performance, we're going to be a ship lost at sea, always looking for somebody else. It turns into codependency, right? The mental illness. It literally turns into, please tell me I'm doing good. It doesn't even matter if you are good. It only matters if someone tells me, right? Like if you're a good husband, it only matters if your wife notices, right? Like I'll do things just to make sure she sees it right when she comes home. Oh, hey, right? Yeah. Just because then, if I do the dishes, she doesn't notice, was it worth it, right? And that's the mentality, applause-based performance. So growing in consistency in that the person that I am when there's no applause, no one cares, no one's validating Jason's ego and saying, hey, dude, you're great, you're great. Who's that person when the lights go out? And the only solid anchor that I have found and that I have seen consistently in other people's lives is it being in Christ and having a consistent anchor in Christ who says hey, he is the anchor of our faith. And so otherwise, when our identity is based on our performance, even our high caliber leadership and salary number and making 6 figures or making over 200, all those things are super, super great until they're not enough. And someone doesn't clap anymore every time they get a promotion. They're actually rooting for you to lose. Yeah. Because the world wants what you got. And once those things tap out and run out, who are you going to be then? And I have seen it time and time again, is it comes back to faith and who you place your faith in.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's what I would say,
man.
man.
For you, that faith is
it's Christ, man.
For you personally.
Is the Lord, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, no, Derek, what you think, man?
Another one in the books.
Another one in the books. Yeah. Drop the mic on him. We ain't got nothing else. Man.
Good.
Yeah, that was good, man.
Cool.
You know?
Yeah. God bless you guys.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Pastor Jason, man. Jason Fieser. Hey, where can we find you real quick online? Where can we find you?
Gosh, yeah, I hate saying all that and then plugging myself. No, I mean, I'm on Instagram, Jason Fieser, and TikTok. I just started TikTok.
Oh my gosh.
You know, listen, the young guys, I'm like, they're like, I'm like, listen, I don't want to learn another social media language, but they convinced me to be on TikTok. And it's actually been fun, because here's why. Facebook is like for the birds, my parents, my grandparents, and church members. IG is for like young adults. Yeah. And then TikTok, I'm looking at as outreach. Yeah. And so I'm just posting dating tips and relationship tips and spiritual abuse tips and red flags. So that's new, but yeah, I mean, just Google my name.
Jason Fieser. He said Google me.
Just Google me. No, don't Google me. Google me. No.
You can find me on Wikipedia.
Yes, I've made my own page. I am the only one that made the page.
I'm on
patent pending.
LinkedIn.
Yeah. Just find my link tree. No,
oh, geez, that's great, man.
Honestly, just whatever.
That's awesome, man. Man, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Once again, this is Josiah Igano, Derek Devine, and for our guest, Pastor Jason Fieser. God bless you guys, and we'll see you soon.